Well, hey there, welcome to the Movement Clinic. My name is Emily, and today I'm taking you through a restorative practice focusing on the hips. So for restorative practices, I find it very helpful to use lots of props. Today I've got a couple of blankets here that we can use. I have a couple of yoga blocks that I'm going to use. If you don't have blocks, feel free to find something that will help you out. Maybe a foam roller, a couple of big books. Get creative. And I also have a yoga strap. You can substitute this with a sturdy belt, a dog leash, I don't know, a length of rope. Get creative here as well. Go ahead and take a moment, gather everything, and I'll see you on the mat. For today's practice, we are starting on our backs in a supine butterfly position using some props. So first, I'm going to take one of my blankets, and you can see the long edge here. I'm basically going to roll it up. You could also use another yoga mat if you don't have a blanket. But essentially, I'm just making a nice long firm roll, placing it lengthwise on my mat. And I'm going to make sure both of my blocks are handy as well. So to come into this, go ahead and get your low back right up against your blanket or whatever you're using. You're going to lie on back, and your shoulder blades should wrap around. Your head should land somewhere on the blanket. If it doesn't, you can grab a pillow. Then you're going to take your blocks on either side of your mat. These are going to catch our knees. Soles of the feet touch, knees start to open out wide. We're just going to use these blocks to support maybe somewhere under the thighs. My hips aren't really open coming into this big external rotation like this, but hopefully with a little bit of gravity and with the support, the inner thighs, the groin, it can all start to release. And take a few moments to get settled here. We're going to hold each of these poses for a minute or two so that we've got time to really allow the body and the nervous system to just settle in and relax. You can feel free to place your hands on your belly, open your arms out wide, elbows in line with your shoulders, maybe even wrists in line with your shoulders, or I'm actually going to choose cactus arms ultimately here, so elbows in line with shoulders, maybe a little higher, and wrists above elbows. You get a little bit of opening across the chest and pec minor as well. Begin to smooth and deepen your breath. Maybe notice anywhere where you're gripping or clenching, holding. It could just be in the space between your eyebrows if you're furrowing the brow. Maybe your jaw is a little clenched. Often I find that the outer hips, sort of the lower part of the glutes and kind of butt cheeks, can clench as we try not to allow the knees to open out wide and splay open entirely. Just different forms of guarding and protecting that the body employs if there's injury or discomfort that's already existing. So for the next several breaths, continue to scan the body. Notice what you can let go of. Very slowly, take your hands outside of your thighs and help to press the knees back in towards one another. Plant the feet. Move your blocks off to one side of the mat. Keep one handy. Roll off of the blanket and just take a moment to lie on your back with nothing underneath you. Notice how it feels to just lie on your back with thighs in a neutral position. Low back is neutral, and the upper back is simply resting with nothing underneath it. And go ahead and take the block that you've kept handy. Going to take it on its lowest and widest setting. Press down into your feet, lift your hips, and you're going to rest the flat part of the low back. So the sacrum, which is just above the tailbone. Some of us are familiar with what that is. Some of us aren't. So you don't want it to be so far up on your low back proper on the lumbar spine that your kind of butt cheeks and sacrum are actually tilting off of it and sliding off of the block. Get it right under that flat part. Gently draw your belly in as you float your knees above your hips, and then lengthen legs long. So if your hamstrings are tight, you might actually have kind of bent legs, but get them as long as you can as the low back releases and gravity gently presses down into our feet and through our thigh bones to broaden the low back. All of these structures are really connected. So if we release something in the hips, we're probably going to find low back relief. If we release something or do something specific for the low back, it's going to affect the hips, which is really nice. It's kind of like a twofer. Very slowly begin to bend the knees. Plant your left foot onto the mat. Interlace your fingers around the right shin bone. Draw that shin in, finding a nice compression in the right hip flexor. You can guide your knee directly towards your right nipple or right breast, or maybe guide the thigh outside of the ribs towards the right armpit. Figure out what type of compression feels nice for you for about 30 seconds. You might leave the left leg bent or allow the leg to go long and enjoy a nice extension across that hip flexor. And also, there's a release for that really nasty little psoas muscle that tends to give us some grief. Good. And if you've lengthened that left leg, draw the low belly in as you slowly bend the knee, plant the left foot, release the right foot, plant the foot on the mat, draw the belly in, hug the left knee in, interlace your fingers around your left shin. And again, play with where that compression feels best. Maybe knee more in line with your nipple and thigh really compresses right down onto the ribs, or maybe outside. Knee in line with armpit, thigh outside of ribs. Relax your neck, relax your jaw, relax your shoulders. Stay, or go ahead and lengthen that right leg long. Then breathe. Very slowly draw your belly in. maybe bend that right leg a little bit. We're gonna send the left leg long again, coming into sort of a lifted Shavasana shape. So legs out long, releasing the front of those hips with the help of the block underneath us, or maybe you have a book or a pillow. And very slowly draw the belly in, bend both knees, plant your feet, press into the feet, lift your hips off of your block, slide it out of the way. Toe heel your feet as wide as your sticky mat and allow your knees to gently collapse in towards one another. Low back broadens for just a moment. Just giving our body a chance to recalibrate, our tissues to reset. Now roll over to one side or another so that you might press your way up to a seat. Now take both of your blocks at the top of your mat. On any setting is totally fine. Grab one of your blankets, and this is going to be used to pad your knee. So coming into a low lunge and more of a lizard lunge on either side, let's start with our right foot forward. So I'm going to place my blocks a little more towards the left side of my mat, one on the outside, one a little bit inside from the right corner of the mat, so that as I place my hands on my blocks, I shift my hips over to the left. I can pick up my right foot and step it outside of that front block. Right foot is on the outer right corner and edge of the mat. Now, even though this is a restorative practice, a little bit of active engagement so that we can protect the hips and the low back as we're coming into maybe a little bit deeper of shapes, okay? So just gently draw the low belly in. With your hands planted, begin to shift your hips forward. Maybe shoulders start to move a little past wrists. Maybe you feel that you can go any lower here. You might come on down to forearms and continue to play with the height of your props. So you might be up here, and then you might be here. And then you might say, well, that's great, but now I want to try a little bit lower. So just keep kind of moving your blocks and your props in such a way that they're continuing to support you, and so that you can actually soften into this. Again, lift of the low belly. And gaze at that right knee. Sometimes it likes to splay open here. Draw the right knee in so that it continues to stack over your right ankle. And you might feel best to let the head just sort of hang heavy here. Notice if there's any gripping or clenching. Nice smooth breaths. Working in the hips can kind of bring up a lot of stuff for people. Sometimes it's frustration because we tend to be really tight here, maybe anger. There's the whole subtle body theory that we hold a lot of emotion in our hips. So just be aware that whatever is coming up for you is super common. And if there's intensity, see what you can soften. If you're gripping, see what you can relax with each exhale. Good. Now, you might be able to stay where you are as you move into this next transition, this next position. You might need to lift up a little bit. Now gaze at your right foot. Turn your right toes out to the right slightly, maybe just 45 degrees. And maybe take your right hand on that inner right knee and thigh and start to press it away as you start to feel and work into that outer right hip a little bit. Maybe find a spot with the knee out, maybe rooting down into the outer edge of that right foot. Flex the right foot if you're rolling to the pinky edge side of the foot. And see what you can soften here. So it's almost like same sensations as we might find in like a pigeon prep. Maybe a little different. Maybe you feel it more towards your groin. But no matter what, notice if you can soften your jaw, if you can soften your gaze, maybe even close your eyes. Use your breath to soothe the nervous system. And then slowly come on up. Plant your hands on the block, one at a time. Turn your toes to square to the top of the mat. Shift your hips over to the left and swing your right leg back behind you. And take a moment and feel all of those wonderful and fun sensations that maybe that release of that deep compression creates. I get sort of like a whooshing flood of nice fresh blood to that area, tingles, vibrations. It's fun. Now walk your blocks over to the right block all the way to the right corner, left block in just enough so that as we shift over to the right, we can pick up our left foot and step it forward. If you can't step it forward, just grab the ankle and help it forward. Now lift that low belly. As you begin to send the pelvis forward in space, notice here, maybe we need to stay up on this side. Either hip or both sides are going to be different. So it might just be that you can make the same shape, but the sensations are more intense or less so. Maybe you can get deeper, maybe not. Just honor what's actually true of this side. And go ahead and find a place, playing with your props for just a few seconds to find what you can soften into. Making sure that left knee is still staying stacked over that left ankle, and if it's not, move it in line with the ankle. It can be past it, that's really not a problem here per se. Find a position with the head so that the neck can relax as well. I often notice that sometimes one of the places that I hold to kind of lift out of these types of bigger, more challenging shapes for the hips is that I really lift my upper back up to kind of lift out of it. So maybe see with your next exhale if you can soften the space between your shoulder blades and feel your heart melt towards the mat. Good. Now, again, option to place your hands back on your blocks if they're not there already and lift out of this slightly so that you can make your way through this transition to our more lizard lunge or rather dragon lunge sort of shape. So pick up your left toes, turn them out to the left. Maybe 90 degrees makes sense, maybe 45. Figure out what works for you. Maybe take that left hand and start to press that left knee and thigh open, figuring out what's going on there. And once you find a space, again, where the intensity feels useful, not too much, not too little, you know, the Goldilocks complex, just right. Hold it there. If you're rolling to the outer or the pinky edge side of the foot, as I am, I would suggest gently flexing the toes back so that there's a little bit of protection for the outer ankle. It's not an unsafe range of motion for your ankle, but if you don't train that way, it might aggravate it. And then go ahead and find a place that's comfortable for you. Again, soften the space between your shoulder blades. See if you can just melt down, soften into this as much as possible. Sometimes deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth can be soothing. I find that humming on the out breath is particularly soothing for my nervous system. It also makes me really fun to practice next to. I'm very vocal. Excellent. Now, go ahead and slowly come out of this as gently as you made your way in. Square the toes forward, shift the hips over to the right, swing that left foot behind you. Take a moment and enjoy whatever sensations are happening. Maybe move gently. I've got some fun things kind of adjusting and moving as my tissues are becoming more hydrated with all of that fresh blood. And now make your way into a child's pose. This can be as supported as you would like. So you might take your little blanket roll to sort of lie on, or maybe both of your blocks underneath your blanket roll to give it a little bit of elevation, like so that you can just sort of lie down. And as you're ready, slowly walk your hands back. Plant your palms underneath your shoulders. Press away to lift up and sit up. Okay. Last couple here before we find a Shavasana. So I'm going to take my blanket so that it can pad my knees. I'm going to move my blocks out of the way. So this is going to be a capsular stretch for, and don't worry about necessarily that, but depending on where you're tight in your hips, you may or may not feel this pretty strongly. So just know that, as always, you go as far or as little as you need to that feels right for you. Find a place that you can soften into. And I'm just going to show you this front view first so you have a better idea of kind of the angle of the knee and the leg. So let's say I'm starting with my right leg. I'm going to place my knee sort of more in line with my right hip or my right bony hip point, right? So a little bit more of an angle here. And the opposite foot is going to go behind. Now my wall's getting in my way, but I'm just crossing it behind. And then I'm just going to walk my hands out and sink my hips over and just find a spot that I can sit with, okay? So showing from the side angle, I'm starting with my right knee over, left leg crosses behind, and there, that is really for me a spot that I can just sit with, okay? Softening shoulders. The more you shift your hip so that it's more in line with your knee, not behind necessarily, not way forward, but maybe, again, just playing with a position where you can actually feel a lengthening and opening. This gets a lot of spot in the hip itself. Those external rotators are getting some length. Again, this is a capsular stretch for some passive stabilizers that are deep in your hip joint. Excellent. Now slowly plant your palms, shift over to the left, bend your left knee, bring it back underneath you. Move your right leg back out. Maybe take a moment, again, that sense of recalibration before we come into the left side. Maybe even notice what feels different side to side. And then left knee crosses underneath you to come more underneath your bony right hip point. Right leg picks up and sort of crosses behind. What you do with that back leg or that leg behind you is really up to you. Find what you're comfortable with and what makes sense for your body. And again, playing with the position of the upper body, kind of finding that sweet spot. I find that a little bit more leaning to the left here. And even flossing front and back gently to find the sweetest spot here is pretty useful. And again, breathe. Excellent. Come on out, slowly but surely. Bring that right knee back underneath you, left knee back underneath your left hip. Maybe sink back for a gentle child's pose before we make our way to our backs. The slow and steady journey back toward Shavasana. Now, however you're most comfortable getting there, make your way to your back. Make sure that one of your blocks is handy and that you grab your strap. You might even leave a blanket handy for Shavasana if you'd like to use it as a cover or a pillow in any way. So, to start, first with the strap. So we're going to capture the ball of the right foot with the strap. Hold the strap in such a way that your shoulders and neck and shoulder blades can stay firmly rooted into the mat. So if what's true for you and your body and how tight or open the back of your legs are, it might be that you're holding your belt or your strap way down here and just allow the strength of the biceps to help hold the foot steady. Okay, we're just supporting the foot staying where we want it to right now. Okay, We don't want to be up here trying to get the leg straight and get our hands as close to our foot as possible and not really doing ourselves any favors with the upper body and the neck and the chest. So reach out through your inner heel, flex all 5 toes back towards your face. Do a quick little external rotation of the leg as you turn the toes out. Internal, turn the toes in. External, turn the toes out. Internal, turn the toes in. Bring them back to neutral. Feel what neutral is. Stay. Or lengthen the left leg long. Gently flex your left foot. Draw the low left belly in to support that left hip and butt and back line of the body staying rooted down. Take some nice deep breaths. Feel what you can soften in the jaw and the neck, the chest, the shoulders. Flex your toes back towards your face again. Lengthen out through that inner heel a little more. Good. Take both ends of the strap in your right hand. Closer to the foot so that this arm is comfortably long. The shoulder might lift a little bit to start. That's fine. Because of where we're going, the shoulder is going to land. Left arm reaches out to the left, anchored down through that left shoulder and shoulder blade. So actively press down into the shoulder blade. Actively draw your low left belly down. Keep your left hip down. Take an inhale. Don't let any of the left side of your body move. And exhale, start to open the right leg out to the right. Now, if you start to feel the left hip lift and the left shoulder lift, you've gone too far. Come back, draw the low belly back, anchored down. So this is a little bit more active here. Figure out what works for you and your body. Here for about 5 smooth breaths. With your next exhale, draw the belly in to help lift the leg back up. Switch the grip of the strap in your hands. Left hand grabs the strap, comfortably long arm, closer to the foot. Shoulder might be a little lifted. Here, I want you to turn your toes out. I'm sure you already feel, like I do, what's happening somewhere in the back of the leg. Right arm out to the right. Anchor down through your right shoulder, draw the low belly in, and with the toes turned out, start to bring the leg across the body. You don't have to go very far. I already feel it all the way down. So it might be 6 inches. It might be 2 feet. Just depends on your body and how you use it. And also its natural bony structures. Take an inhale here. Exhale, draw the belly in, lengthen the leg back up. Bend your knee so you can release the strap and let the leg go long to the bottom of the mat for a moment. And just take a second and rest here. Appreciate any of the sensations running up and down the body. Excellent. Same thing, other side. You might bend the right knee and plant the foot. As you bend the left knee, capture this ball of the left foot in that strap. Arms, again, holding, or hands holding the strap in such a way that the neck and shoulders and chest, all of that can be relaxed. Jaw, whole 9 yards. Lengthen the inner left heel up, flex the left toes back towards your face, draw the low belly in. Externally rotate the toes, internally rotate the toes, external rotation, internal rotation, toes turning in and out. And then finally find neutral. Draw the belly in, stay, or lengthen the right leg long. Flex the right foot if the leg is long. And now again here, low right belly draws back. This helps to anchor this hip and this side of the back down. Grab both ends of the strap with the left hand, comfortably long arm, shoulder might lift a little bit again. A little closer to the foot. Open right arm out to the right, anchor down through that right shoulder and shoulder blade, and begin to bring the left leg out to the left. Now my wall, as always, gets in the way here, but I can actually use it a little bit to position the leg. And then let my left arm relax. Why not? Take another inhale here. Exhale, draw the belly in to help lift the leg back up. Now grab both ends of the strap in the right hand, again comfortably close to the foot. Nice long arm. Left arm out to the left, anchor down through that left shoulder blade. Good, now externally rotate the left toes. So turn the left toes out. Keep that. Begin to draw the leg over the body until you reach whatever level of intensity you can handle here. I made it about 8 inches on this side. And take some nice deep breaths to help soften around whatever challenge or intensity is arising here. Excellent. Take an inhale. Draw the belly in, lift the leg back up, bend the knee, release the strap off to the side. Let your leg go long for just a moment and just notice and appreciate whatever sensations, feelings or otherwise are arising. And go ahead and bend your knees. Use your belly to support that, drawing it in. Plant your feet and grab your block. Last one before we find Shavasana. I think I might have promised that something was the last one a couple times ago, but you know, it is what it is. So block is going to be on the medium wide setting to slide underneath that sacrum, just like we did in the beginning or toward the beginning of class. So press down into those feet, lift your hips, slide your block on the medium setting out. Now there's going to be a couple of different options for, again, releasing the front of the hip flexors. These things that often stay super short as we spend a lot of our time sitting. So make sure that block is firmly underneath the sacrum, just above the tailbone. Again, don't go too low down the back or this isn't even going to feel like you can stay here. And go ahead and lengthen both legs long. This is layer one. So because our hips are a little higher, you can see that there's more of an arc. See how this feels on the low back. See what's going on. And here you might stay or gently bend the right knee, slide the heel in so you can plant the foot. Pause for a moment. You might draw the right knee in towards your chest. You might stay just like this. This might be enough on the left hip flexor. Or you might slide your right hand down your right shin. Bring the heel outside of your butt and hip. Tuck your toes under and set the top of your foot outside of the block. This might be enough, or you might start to reach the right knee forward and down towards the bottom corner or the bottom edge of your mat. This might also be enough, or you might bend your left knee. You might even hug the left knee in towards your chest. Or possibly you might plant the left foot and bridge the hips up as you press into the left foot to create more length and opening across the hip flexor. So again, all of these are just options, whatever you can actually soften into for a few more breaths. And no matter what shape you're in, help yourself to slowly come out. Bend both knees, plant both feet. Pause. And you might lengthen your right leg back out long if this is what you're going for. Maybe both legs if you're just staying in sort of this supported starfishy bridge position. You might try hugging your left knee in. You might stay or slide the left hand down the left shin, tuck the left toes under, plant the top of the left foot outside of your hips where it's landing on the block. Lengthen the left knee forward and down. This might be enough on this side, or you might plant the right foot. You might bridge the hips up. And my left hip flexor tends to be a bit tighter. It's just something to notice. Maybe this side's easier for you. Maybe it's more challenging. Maybe there's more sensation. Maybe it feels about the same. And very slowly help yourself back to both knees bent, feet planted. Pause here. And press down into the feet. Lift those hips on off of the block. Move it off to the side as the low back and hips land back on the mat. Go ahead and set yourself up for Shavasana. I'm going to end as we began in this Supta Baddha Konasana with the help of both blocks on either side of my legs, underneath the knees. Instead of having a rolled up blanket underneath the length of my spine, I'm actually going to take my blanket and use it to support my neck and head. So bringing it under, I'm just going to roll it up underneath me until I feel like my neck is just really nicely supported. And then from there, I can actually tuck the blanket underneath the sides of my head as well, so that it feels really firmly and solidly held there. And slowly soften back into your Shavasana. Allow gravity pressing down on you to soften the front of the body into the back of the body. Release your eyes into the backs of your eye sockets. Soften the corner of your eyes towards your ears. Release your tongue from the roof of your mouth. Separate your back molars. Throat and jaw are soft. Belly soft. And I invite you to stay here for several minutes if possible, allowing the benefits of this practice to integrate into your cells, into your tissues, allowing your nervous system to stay completely settled. And I will leave you here for as long as you would like. I'll see you next time at the Movement Clinic. Namaste.